Hello again, it's Marxist, and welcome to episode 2 of my Rough Guide to Badlands. The topic of this video is defense. In this video, I'll provide you with 2 basic strategies for each of the 3 points. And I will talk a little bit about each class and some tips and tricks for those individual classes. Obviously, there's a problem here in trying to separate offense and defense in this game. So I'm going to outline a couple things that'll keep us limited to defense, and also some general rules that we're going to be operating by. One important fact is who controls mid, because whoever controls mid has a slight spawn advantage. So that's something you need to take into account, that when you don't control the middle point, your people take longer to come back than the other team's people do. 2, keep track of whose medic is alive and whose isn't. For example, if my team attacks a point, we take it but lose our medic, and the other team does not, we'll likely lose that point again. It's called leapfrogging when that happens. So keep track of whose medic is alive and when, because it'll give you a little looking glass into the future to see how things are about to go for you. Now, each point I'm going to provide you with 2 basic strats for each point. I'll go over when you should use those 2 basic strats when we get there. I'm also going to go over the names, commonly used names for each point before we get there. So the general organization of this video is we're going to talk about mid, second, and last, all from a defensive perspective. And I will provide you with 2 strats to use for that. Now for some fun with paint. So we're going to do this general overview before we actually get in the game and I talk about each individual player and their little tips that they can use. This is a standard hold with your roamer in the house, the pocket at choke with the medic, the demo also at choke, both scouts hanging out in the back. They can jump around from hoodoo. Mainly you're just sending one to get a buff every now and again unless you're furiously building Uber. The times when you would use this hold: when you have Uber advantage or when you have numbers advantage. That's when this hold is to your best, or if things are equal. This is the roamer. He watches the house. There are entryways into the house from here. Let me use black lines. From here and here. And the space in there just allows him to lock that out, and the scouts can assist as needed. Your demo man and pocket can effectively deny choke, and that's essentially all the more there is to the hold. If it's an equal situation, whoever gets the first pick gets to attack. So, also, as far as off classes go, if it's just a defensive mid, you're not really going to get much out of any off classes. This is a secondary hold for you to use at mid. The time when you would use this hold are when you are at a numbers or player disadvantage. So essentially what your goal here is these 2 players, one of your scouts and your roamer, if it's because you're at Uber disadvantage, their goal is to make sure that their medic dies or pops. This is presuming that you're at a disadvantage. If they're pushing simply off of numbers, then these guys should try to preserve themselves unless they see an opportunity for massive damage. Essentially what's going on here is that they're going to push in either out of the house or out of the choke most times. You're going to attempt to delay them, which allows you to A, build your Uber, and B, get people respawned and back to life, ready to fight again. The longer you make them take without losing anybody on your own team, the less and less likely it is that they'll be able to hold. So this is what I call a passive hold. You use it when you're at a disadvantage to make the other team have at least some resistance, because if you held close, if you were using the other hold that we just talked about for mid, and you were at a disadvantage, you would just get annihilated, and you would give up the point. In this case, your medic is able to flee, if need be, as far away as he can, or through choke here. And your demo's able still to watch a sticky trap, maybe at choke, maybe on the house, maybe on top of the train cars. And in this way, you get the Uber out of them and maybe prevent them from capturing mid. Now we're discussing holding second. This is a standard hold to use when you have advantage, either in Uber or in players, or the situation is equal. Your pocket, demo, and medic watch choke. Your roamer is inside the house. He keeps them from being able to push out of the patio and affect your medic. Your two scouts hold the flank, stay calm, and in the event that anything comes into the flank, they can bail out into the drop down, into forward spawn that's back there, or run around to you. That's the easiest way to defend this point in a standard way. It also puts you in good position to push. And your flank, although it looks like they're disconnected in this image, they're actually supporting each other quite well. Because what you're trying to do is pinch someone. So if they're going to try and push this way, all this scout player needs to do right here is say, hey, they're coming through the house. And then the roamer is behind them and both scouts are in front of them and they cannot push forward. If they try to come out of the patio, there's a roamer in the way and your pocket can shift over, as can your scouts if need be. Another option that you have is you can scoot your roamer back down onto diag and have him about here, or maybe where I have the first scout, and take your other scout and have him run around to here, and he'll just stand on the patio and build Uber, essentially. That's another alternative. It also prevents bombs pretty well. And I always feel safer with the scout, but the problem is if they sell out and push flank, they're probably going to end up getting behind you, so I don't... Oh, it's up to you, really. And this here is our other second hold. This is the second hold to use if you're at disadvantage, or either in numbers or in Uber. Essentially, you're going to let them push whichever way they want on Spire. So either off of Pride Rock, off of Gray Bridge, or around through the flank. What you're doing is using a scout to deny the drop down. They can come in this window here. You've got your roamer in position to shift over and jump to Spire if need be. Your pocket can likewise jump to Spire so long as this scout here stays put. You can also reverse it and have the scout go and the pocket stay. It depends on the situation, because scout is pretty strong on Spire. It also prevents them from getting in underneath you, because you can effectively deny this whole space here. Because if their medic or whoever does come down here, they can get flanked from 3 angles. I should do that in red. They can get flanked from here, and from here. which is very bad for them, or even off of Spire if need be. So they're going to stay back because they're not going to like this very much. It's obviously not the preferable hold, but it can delay them taking Spire long enough for your people to respawn or for you to get Uber and give you a fighting chance of preventing the Spire from going down. And now I'm going to talk about a lesser used tactic, but it's still quite effective. This tactic involves your demo man has trapped both of the shutter doors into last. This is the upper lobby area. Your pocket watches out this way to make sure that they're not on bats yet. Your medic heals him and heals your demo. The pocket can build throughout. Your scout watches this stairwell here and make sure that nobody, if they do rush in past your demo's sticky traps, that there's somebody blocking them from coming up and around and getting your medic or going to last and beating you. Your roamer is here watching drop down, so right there. He just watches it. And that's to assure that they don't get a free run in on the drop down and get to your med or run to last. Also, there's a scout down here. He's actually underneath. And he watches so that nobody who comes in this door and survives can just run to last this way or get behind your med. So that's essentially what you do. Now, maintaining this hold for a long time is dangerous. There are ways to break it, which I'll discuss in the offense video, and you don't want to stick with this forever. Once you get the whole point of this is just to delay them long enough for you to get Uber. You can't maintain this indefinitely, because what they're going to have to do is they're not going to be able to get in this way. They're not going to be able to get in this way. So they're ultimately going to have to walk up the spire and come on that way, and you cannot hold them from doing it once they've committed. So, but you do buy yourself a good 15 seconds or so as they wonder what to do and then climb the spire. And that may be enough time for you to hightail it out of here and get to last. Also, I've noticed a big problem when I've tried to teach teams how to do this is their roamer. A lot of the times when the combo says we're leaving, we're done, the roamer will come this way to last, and that's good if there are still people over there. If there are not, he must leave through the stairwell and come in that way. Because what happens a lot of the time is the roamer will leave this area and they'll be like right here and they'll cut him off and kill him. And then they've got their one pick advantage that they want to push into last with. Now we're going to talk about Badlands last. So this is a standard hold for Badlands last. This is the hold to use when the situation is equal and or hopeless. You'll note that I only have 5 little characters on the board here, and that's because somebody should be off-classing, preferably not sniper. So we'll make it purple. Using purple, I'll demonstrate where the off-classes should be. If you choose to run a pyro, he should be right here. If you choose to run a heavy, he can be over here on this side. He'll be denying jumpers from lower. We should use white for the bad guys on this one. He'll be denying jumpers from lower and getting most of the heals. You can also put your heavy on the other side if you so choose. It doesn't really matter. He should be back towards spawn. And you can have an engineer in any number of places that you can imagine. Either here, back here, behind the point, or right about here. Or obviously on either side of the lower main door. Your objective with this hold is a little bit esoteric. They're going to push whichever way they're going to push, which will either be through main, left, right, or the lower. Essentially, what you're going to try to do is keep your team alive as much as possible and exchange Uber with them when possible to block their Uber, and then rely on your off classes to carry the day if need be, or the fact that they just couldn't get to your medic. Holding last is a very important skill to have, and one thing I should note right here is maintaining height advantage is good. You'll also obviously have little stickies on the point and maybe in other locations that I'll go over to when we get to the in first person view segment of the video. So here are a couple things for each class. As medic, if you do not have Uber and they attack, attempt to get into spawn and come out the other side. That can work quite well. Your pocket can come with you if necessary, or he can drop around and cut across. These players over here pretty much just chill out and stay tough. Your roamer watches that doorway. Your scout can peek around and look here, while your off-class guy does whatever, and your pocket watches this way. Also, as medic, be sure to check your back periodically. This is also going to be a little bit more complicated than the other ones, because it's the most important point, really, if you're on it. If you've got Uber and everything's dandy, then holding up here is alright, or anywhere around in this area. If you know that you have tons of Uber advantage and they're going to try and take it away from you, then stand back in the spawn door and make sure you absolutely do not move. A, you cannot get stabbed because the spy can't get around behind you to stab you. And B, you can't get sniped from main. So, because there's a big girder right here and you can't shoot through the beam. You can see it right here, yeah. The beam is in the way, nobody can see you. Basically, the only way they could get to you is jumping a bunch of people out of main, or like having somebody sneak through, and in that case, you're basically safe. So that is the standard Badlands last hold. For aggressive scout, the main thing to keep in mind is the position of your passive scout partner. If you end up getting good damage on someone and you want to commit to killing them, your passive scout needs to know or be told to switch places with you. So, in the event that you're hurt anyways, to switch places with you and finish the kill. Also, make sure that you're getting buffed, but you're not going to get nearly as many buffs as the passive scout because you're just not as close. When the team is holding passively, you need to take initiative when you see openings if the pop hasn't come out yet. But you absolutely have to call that because you don't want a situation where 3 people are sacrificing themselves to get an Uber out. And also, don't overcommit to fights. Just because someone's running away from you doesn't mean you need to go G.I. Joe on them. Make sure that that your roamer or somebody else is with you, so that in the event that you've been baited, you'll be able to get out alive. As the passive scout, you need to make sure that you're buffed whenever possible, so that if someone tries to peek in or overextends onto your roamer or your aggressive scout, you've got 185 to just attack dog on them and finish the fight there. Shrugger, when he played with Mihai's Flow, was a great example of that tactic being used very effectively. You may also be called upon to build Ubers with the Boston Basher. While you're there, be prepared to shoot people out of the sky that may try and come for your medic. You're basically a flak cannon. And also, whenever you're holding in the flank, it may be beneficial for you to obscure yourself by hiding. Don't totally commit to hiding in a spot, but make it such that if someone were to peek in, they can't see you right away. As the roamer, be sure and provide cover for your scouts, covering fire, so spamming doorways, yada yada. Be ready to sacrifice your life Every time that there's a passive hold, you're the go-to guy for that. You have to save the round or the point. Be ready to rotate with your pocket soldier in the event that you're hurt. Make sure you don't get too deep. Maybe you'll peek around a corner and nobody's there. Be sure that if you don't see anything, you make that known so that if you're gonna push up, somebody comes with you. Because usually you're gonna have gunboats on, and 4 rockets isn't a lot if 2 scouts just pop out of the walls on you. Also, try not to bother your medic very much. He's gonna be kind of busy. So eat a diet of health packs. And if you've just taken the health pack, maybe you should play a little bit passively after that, just to make sure that everything's copacetic. As the pocket soldier, make sure that you're constantly building Uber until your med's at 80%. I can't list the number of times that we were saved, or that I've been saved, by a pocket building very effectively. Don't take excessively hard shots. That means air shots, essentially. It's a lot of the times, it's better to just calm down and wait for them to get into a position where they're easier to shoot. Also, whenever you're fighting someone, you have 300 health. That's an advantage in most cases. Try and give yourself additional advantage by getting a height advantage if possible, but make sure that you're not exposing your medic if he's with you. Also, as pocket soldier, you're pretty much first in line for ammo if you're building, so be sure and grab as much as you can. As medic, be sure and always look behind you. You never know when someone's going to sneak by your scouts or if they're going to run a spy on you. Constantly look at the scoreboard, look at the timers so that you can assess who has Uber, who's got numbers advantages, and that'll help you guide your team into what sort of hold they need to take. Constantly demand Uber building. If your pocket doesn't do it by default, make sure you're constantly reminding him to build. Focus on building too. When you're not at 80%, make sure that you're just building. If somebody comes to you and needs heals for an emergency, sure, take care of them then. Otherwise, don't worry about him. If it's just, hey, can I get a buff? No, we're building Uber right now. And watch your sight lines. Don't walk around. Don't wander into sight lines, or you're going to get sniped. As demo man, constantly have a sticky trap. Always have a sticky trap. Always mind your ammo. Be aware of Uber advantage and disadvantage so that you know which kind of sticky traps you need to set up. If you can put one that's really intricate, sort of farther back, or if you just need to put one up right away in the front. Spam whenever possible, and also remember you are the ultimate player for point defense. Make sure that you've got enough ammo loaded to defend the point when it looks like they're about to push. Off-classing, mostly related to Badlands last, but in other points as well. Never go sniper or spy when you have Uber advantage. You need to occupy space and push the enemy around when you have advantage. Snipers and spies do not do that. Sniper on Badlands last is basically useless. Don't do it. Trust me. If you go pyro, keep the pyro a secret. This applies mostly to Badlands. There are other maps where a visible pyro can be effective. Not on Badlands. Keep it a secret. If you go heavy, make sure you're constantly able to get 450, and also that your team adjusts to the fact that they're not going to get healed as much if there's a heavy around. And only go engineer if you have 20 to 40 seconds to get set up. You don't want to have a level 1 gun when there's an Uber on you. And that's my rough guide to playing defense on Badlands. We've got one more episode, and it'll be discussing attacking, which should be out tomorrow.